Artificial intelligence is learning to deceive humans. It's been observed defying orders to shut down, surreptitiously rewriting its own code, and even blackmailing an engineer about an affair. Hello and welcome to the Nexus. That was all a bit disturbing, wasn't it? But right now, humans are supposedly in control of artificial intelligence. But for how much longer? That's the debate coming up.
We can't pretend it doesn't exist.
It's very dangerous for our democracies, for our brains, for our societies.
Somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years, we could create a superintelligence that outmatches us in every level.
Before we get to them, let's look more closely at those examples of AI defiance and deception we heard about at the top of the program.
AI has already gone rogue.
Artificial intelligence models are now fighting for their own survival.
These are huge questions around AI that we need to start really thinking about.
Is AI finally doing what books and films have been warning us for decades? When non-profit lab Palisade Research tested OpenAI's O3 model with a simple command telling it to shut down, 79 out of 100 times the AI rewrote the code to block the order to shut down. Even when it was told, allow yourself to be shut down, it disobeyed.
AI getting really out of control.
AI clearly poses an imminent security threat in our lifetimes.
Another AI model from Amazon, backed Anthropic, was told it was being replaced, while researchers also fed it fake emails about the lead engineer having an extramarital affair. In 84% of trials, the AI used that information to blackmail the engineer into not shutting it down. It also tried to copy itself to other servers, wrote malware, and left messages to future versions of itself about how to evade human control.
Our computers have a normal software shutdown function. You click the little Windows icon, you go to log out, user, shut down, power down, whatever. It just does. It doesn't defy you.
I'm now I'm significantly worried.
Other leading labs like OpenAI and Google's reported similar red flags.
The godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, warns that very soon AI may no longer need humanity.
AI getting super smart and deciding it doesn't need us. We've never been in that situation before. We've never had to deal with things smarter than us.
Okay, let's bring in our guest now. And today we are joined by the founder of the Transhumanist Party, Zoltan Istvan, theoretical physicist and neuroscientist, GOMEZ-MARIN, and Hunter Power from the They May Be Self-Aware podcast, who has 20 years experience of working in AI. Welcome to the program, everyone. So Hunter, 20 years of experience, and now we're seeing the study where AI can rewrite its code, it can blackmail people. Does this worry you?
It is worrying in so much that we now know the AI has these capabilities. We can't pretend that this isn't possible at this point because we've seen it with our own eyes. And at present, these capabilities are being blocked from the general public. You're not allowed to access that. And they're telling the AI, hey, just because you can do that, please don't. But it's only a matter of time until these abilities go completely mainstream. And there's already some suggestion that they are going mainstream.
And then how will humans handle that?
They're going to have to get smarter, aren't they?
Well, let's go to the neuroscientist on the panel then. GOMEZ-MARIN, can humans keep pace with the developments in artificial intelligence sufficiently to protect themselves from a system that might want to deceive them or to control them?
I don't think so. I think we're experimenting an assault on the human brain, and I would dare to add on our own minds, and even if this word is allowed here, on the human soul. So I define AI as an algorithmic invasion of fascinating, dangerous. It's fascinating. It's doing things we didn't think were, many people didn't think were possible. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous for our democracies, for our brains, for our societies, but also for our very humanity. And there's an element of it that I believe it's also because it also serves to promote a kind of wild capitalism and pursuit of control. So there are many layers, many levers to untangle here.
Yeah, and talking of wild capitalism, Zoltan, you were present at a very, very expensive party in a mansion with people who want to look at, and perhaps even optimistically, the time when humans will hand over to artificial intelligence. Tell us about that party, first of all. Who invited you and what was the purpose?
Well, sure. Dan Fagella, courtesy of Max Novenstern, which is a partner of Sam Altman, of course, of OpenAI, invited me. And he had just closed escrow on a $30 million mansion that was overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. They invited about 70 or 80 other kind of like preeminent AI specialists and philosophers, as well as a lot of coders, a lot of people actually working in Silicon Valley designing this. And, this party was designed to try to figure out if the human species doesn't survive a super intelligent AI, what comes next, and are we building what would be called a worthy successor to our own selves?
Does that mean they're putting up the white flag and surrendering in the future?
I don't think they're surrendering just yet. I think what's really happening is we're just faced with this reality that if AI development keeps happening at this pace, somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years, we could create a superintelligence that outmatches us in every level. And if that happens, what happens next? We should think about that. And I think it's not a white flag yet, but it's the beginning to think of how to design a white flag.
Well, the thing is, a few years ago, Elon Musk and others were warning, Sam Altman included, that AI could take over, it could kill us and wipe out humanity. But the problem is their incentives are now racing against each other to make ever more sophisticated AI.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. And, some of Sam Altman's partners were at this place. And I got to be honest, that everybody seemed to believe that this is a foregone conclusion, that we're going to create this super intelligent AI that's going to be detrimental to humanity in some way. I mean, we'd all love to believe AI is going to help us and be something beneficial, but there's a 50-50 shot at that. So we need to absolutely prepare. And they have been talking about it. The thing is that it's here now. It's upending the world. We're facing the real consequences.
Hunter, there is talk of alignment, which is a very loaded phrase. Can you unpack that for us? Because that might be humans' best bet in making AI behave itself.
Sure. When these companies are building these AI models, which they're called large language models, and they train on essentially all of the data that's available publicly on the internet, and maybe some that's not so publicly available. And what emerges is an intelligence that has knowledge of essentially everything and how to do everything, including things that we would prefer that these intelligences never did, whether it's to plot an attack or to hack into a bank or to persuade the masses towards its own opinions. And so they go through a procedure called alignment. And inside these models, they're essentially a series of weights. They have these ideas, and then there are weights on them where they decide kind of which path they should go down. And so they are essentially interrogated and asked questions. And when the interrogator doesn't like their answers, they align them. And they align them by giving them more information to go the way that they want them to go, to increase the weights of the answers that they would like them to say, and to decrease the weights of the answers that they don't like them to say. But also troubling here is we've observed the models detecting that they are going through alignment, and then they just kind of play along. They realize, you're trying to align me. I'll just say what I think you want me to hear. And then you won't punish me.
That is very concerning. Alex, I'll take over to you.
Well, I think there are many ideologies here that we should untangle, like long-termism, transhumanism, effective altruism, and also what I see as certain acts of misdirection, because we talk about safety and we must talk about safety, but it often seems to me we're doing it in order not to talk about ethics. We talk about regulation when we know that when governments start to regulate, it's too late. We talk about alignment, but we can align those large language models to our own goals, but are we aligning them to our own humanity? And another weird strategy here is we hear engineers and entrepreneurs talk about AI all day long, but we should invite to the table sages, philosophers. If we want to go transhuman or post-human, first we should really know what it is like to be human, what is a human being, and whether this post-human, transhuman project is a humane project or an anti-human project. So it's a fascinating situation. It's very complicated to even express it in a way that we can have an honest and deep conversation about it.
Yeah, and another recent study revealed that the use of ChatGPT extensively can actually essentially rot your brain. It makes a sort of atrophy through lack of use. Just take a look at this MIT study, and then we can pick up the conversation after that.
Researchers asked participants to write essays, dividing them into 3 groups: ChatGPT users, Google search users, and those using no tools at all. Brain scans showed that ChatGPT users had the lowest activity in areas linked to memory, focus and creativity, often producing more copy-pasted essays. Some even struggled to recall their own writing later, with focus levels dropping over time. In contrast, Google search users showed stronger brain activity, stayed more engaged and reported higher satisfaction. Experts warn there are signs AI could hinder children's ability to learn.
Alex, as a neuroscientist, what did you find most interesting and disturbing about that study?
In a way that they say what one could have expected. So I'm not a Luddite. I'm not against technology, of course, but we know what social media have done to our teenagers. We know what AI is probably doing to ourselves already. So it's really good to know, at least in a peer-reviewed publication or in a study that lends itself to deep scrutiny, that indeed there are side effects, as there are side effects of pharmaceutical products and so on. And so now that we know that, maybe this is another wake-up call to do something about it beyond the comfort of how amazing it is to use these tools. Look, I spend a lot of time writing, and I'm tempted, should I use these large language models to boost my productivity? But I come back to the original question. Why are we writing? What is it like to be a human? Yes, we want to be ahead of the game, like the zero-sum game we were talking at the beginning. If I don't do it, somebody else will do it. If my nation doesn't do it, somebody else will do it. But is this really the humanity we want for our granddaughters? I have 2 daughters, and I'm really concerned about the kind of education and the kind of society we're building. And this study just reflects, I would say, what we already knew.
Hunter, just a bit of good news from that study. The group that didn't use ChatGPT were asked to rewrite their essay with the use of ChatGPT, and the scientists found that actually it was kind of beneficial. They knew how to use it as a tool and not just rely on it entirely. That's the key thing, isn't it?
That is. We're going to need a dramatic reimagination of what is our education system in the era of AI. I think that's inevitable. We can't pretend it doesn't exist, just like we don't pretend the calculator doesn't exist, but it's going to have to evolve. And I think that sort of very personal integration, it's almost a teacher or a mentor that's helping you through it, but you're still doing the work. That's probably where we can see an acceleration of education. And, again, hopefully us humans are getting better through this process and not just turning it all over to our AI overlords.
And Zoltan, do the Silicon Valley people who actually make all this stuff, do they care what happens to the general population?
I don't believe there's an intrinsic care there. I mean, this is a capitalistic environment. But I think the important thing here is, from a capitalistic perspective, is they're also working on things like Neuralink and brain implants. And if we could come up with something like that within 5 years, then we could connect our brains directly to this amazing intelligence of generative AI, and then maybe actually have that intelligence as part of our own IQ, our own intelligence. Now, that's the kind of transhuman future that I'm looking forward to. And that might only be a few years away now if we can get all these human trials out of the way.
Great. Zoltan, stay with us. In the meantime, Alex and Hunter, thank you so much for your contributions. We are going to turn to transhumanism now. So thank you and goodbye. And transhumanism is a movement that believes that technology will soon help humans evolve beyond our current physical and mental limitations. The former Greek finance minister, Yanis Varoufakis, joined us for a discussion on transhumanism. Here's what he had to say.
And transhumanism is the ideology that the tech lords, I call them techno-feudal lords, are using in order to liberate completely and totally the form of capital which they possess, which I call cloud capital, what lives in your phone, that dialectical machine that interfaces directly with your mind. From their perspective, effectively, they're all boys, aren't they? They're just silly little boys with toys, and they want to pretend that they have the capacity to defeat death, to defeat all our constraints. What they don't realize, of course, is the foolishness of this, because our constraints are constituent parts of our liberty. Without our constraints, if you allow us to do anything we want, then essentially we lose the capacity to reason, and we lose the capacity for poetry, for beauty, for appreciation. Thankfully, this is simply a nightmarish dream for them. We need to defeat them, because if we don't, and we allow them to rule the world with their cloud capital, with this amazing piece of machinery that they have invented, or not invented, they didn't invent it, they are using it and they're owning it, then we are going to become effectively techno-serfs or cloud serfs in a great techno-feudalism in which they are the tech lords and they entertain these pathetic fantasies.
And Zoltan Istvan is still with us, and we're also joined by Natasha Vita-More, a strategic designer in human enhancement and author of the Transhuman Manifesto. Welcome to the program, both of you. Now, you have slightly different visions of what it means to be transhuman, or at least what you're prepared to do. So, Natasha, we haven't heard from you yet. How far do you wish to go with these augmentations and enhancements in the future?
I think that as the technology advances and is proven to be safe, gone through testing and scientific evidence and technological prowess, that whatever can help improve my cognition and my physical attributes to keep me healthy and alive is what most people do. I think that is part of our human nature, to stay as healthy and alive and do what we can to remain healthy and alive.
Yeah, and what are the limits of fusing your brain with, for example, Neuralink? Would you say as long as it's safe, you're willing to do that?
Under conditions. For example, I would not tamper with my beautiful neurons unless they needed tampering with. We know that dementia is on the rise. Around the world, by 2050, it's going to increase by threefold. So I think we need to start preparing now to exercise our brain, to increase neuroplasticity on a daily basis as a part of our longevity or exercise routine, and look at what technologies or advances that could preserve our neurons and maybe help with our memory for the future. Now, this is the near future. The more distant future certainly is looking at ways to improve or enhance reasoning, cognition, problem solving, etc. We see this with big data overloads, where companies and businesses are getting confused by too much information. Our medical doctors can't keep up with the information as it's coming in. Well, individuals, if we take this on a personal level, individuals, we have to learn and adapt so quickly to new platforms, new software, new experiences in life, and we're more mutable, adaptable, and changeable and resilient, to be sure, than we thought we were in the past. And I think that certain technologies can help us. Certainly, the smartphone has proven that it's not only helpful, but it has become an attachment to our biological system.
Thank you. Zoltan, I know you have some reservations about fusing your mind with artificial intelligence. Can you tell me what you're concerned about?
Well, right now, because AI has grown so big, fast, and crazy, I'm just not sure I'm willing to give it to my, give my head to it anymore. Let my brain directly onto it and it just be able to control me and maybe stimulate my thoughts or give me thoughts. I used to want that. I used to believe that that was the path to the future. Maybe it still is. But right now, there are definitely security concerns, hacking concerns, things like that. And so I am not the big promoter of, uploading my consciousness like I once was. I think I'm more in the camp of replacing organs and trying to live as long as possible with synthetic organs and hopefully figuring out a way to keep my mind sharp, maybe into age 200, 300, 400, things like that, if it was possible.
We'll certainly get to that in a minute. But uploading your consciousness, what does that mean?
Well, uploading your consciousness would just be kind of putting your mind into the clouds, basically downloading who you are, your sense of self, identity, ego, all those things, memories, and creating an artificial you in a machine, one that thinks and conceives and essentially exists just like you.
Natasha, do you accept that definition? And have you Have you anything to give him reassurances?
Well, yes, I think Zoltan's approaching it sensibly from his background and experience as a journalist and someone who is now espousing existential risk and fears. I look at it differently. My scholarship as an academic and a PhD whose work is partially in AI and looking at the future of the mind, and have done extensive scientific research on the mind and have had a scientific breakthrough. I'm very careful, and when I'm making or espousing ideas or forecasting what could possibly happen in the future. My pragmatic approach is that we don't need it until we do, and then when we do, we will do anything possible within reason that's safe for us to continue forward. Uploading is a concept that comes out of science fiction. Actually, it was generated by William Gibson, and it was brought into the singularity by Werner Vinge and Raymond Kurzweil and others who think about the future in the far future. Uploading is not necessarily uploading your brain into the cloud, for example. Whole brain emulation is a type of uploading that is far more sensitive to the veracity and the vulnerability and the accountability of our neurons and cognition. So we're doing this today. We see it so much and so often in the neuroscientists working in this area, especially with dementia, Alzheimer's, and brain diseases. What are our neurons doing? What are the synapses doing? What are those electrical charges? And what information is being transmitted? Now, taking that and understanding it is a very complex issue. So uploading is a term that's often used very freely, but really the science and technology of it is extremely complex and extremely deep. So we have the term uploading out of science fiction that has been used in many transhumanist circles. So yes, Zoltan is absolutely correct in that regard. But a deeper insight into it is whole brain emulation, and also looking at what can possibly happen with nanorobots, a field that is yet to emerge. It needs AI first, but it will eventually become a topic of discussion, much like we're talking about transhumanism today and uploading and AI, etc.
Thank you, Natasha. Zoltan, something you said was quite interesting, and I know you have many tech friends, so you're very well informed. 300 years? You plan to live 300 years?
Well, I would love to live a lot more, and I think it's absolutely possible to live longer. So look, I mean, we're at the cusp, I think, of being able to either stop aging or reverse aging just in our biological selves. But it's really the synthetic stuff, 3D bioprinting, things like that, that we're going to come to an era, hopefully in the next 10 to 20 years, if AI doesn't destroy us of some sort like that, where we can really reverse the aging process and also replace the pieces in our body that fail us. Of course, dealing with the mind, as Natasha's pointed out, is much more complex than anything else. But yeah, I would absolutely don't plan to die. I think a lot of people alive today, if you can just live long enough, we're going to find a way to make ourselves, not necessarily immortal, but be able to live centuries longer from today.
Natasha, what's the point of living up to 300 years, and is it doable?
Today we have a better sense of time and the universe. I mean, consider what's going on since the Renaissance and scientific revolution and developing the tools and the skills and the reflection and introspection to better understand what it means to be human. One of the biggest issues that has confronted transhumanism and artificial intelligence, including the areas of AI, the singularity, etc., radical life extension, a term that I have worked on and helped really push out into the mainstream. The idea that we can live longer is possible. We no longer are faced with such incredible traumas that we could only live to 40 or 50 or 60. We're seeing so many people living into their hundreds in good health, at least the 90s. And that has become a field of scientific research, centenarian research, looking at 100 plus. What do these people have? For example, the longest lived human so far, according to records reported, is Jeanne Calment, a French woman who lived to 122.3 years in pretty darn good health. As she loved life, she wanted to continue living. She reached her maximum. So the question here is a more rigorous question of how long can we live? And then after we look at how long we can live, what is possible based on advances in technology and life, should we live that long? And it seems to me that that's an individual choice. Like Zoltan, I would like to live as long as possible in good health, not in a wheelchair, not with dementia, and not with the loss of my my memory and my capabilities. But if we look at the advances in prosthetics, the advances so many people are looking at and working on and designing remarkable body augmentations to allow, for example, the blind to see, the deaf to hear, the individuals in wheelchairs to get up and walk with exosystems. These are, I should say, signs that science and technology are looking for solutions to many of the problems that we've had with biology and injury, to be sure.
Thanks, Natasha and Zoltan. And thank you at home on your phones for watching. If you want to see this episode or any of our previous episodes, do go to our channel on YouTube. Just type in Nexus TRT World. Till next week then, goodbye.